Welcome to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference, empowering the good. And in this case, we're talking about HeartQuest's support group. We're honored to be joined by Lori Sepich, co-founder of HeartQuest. How are you doing?
Hey, Jeremy, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for hosting me today. I certainly appreciate it.
Absolutely. So you have a very important storyline that we're going to tie in with this personally, and then we'll talk about the support groups and the good that you're doing for so many across the Mid-South. But let's go ahead and start with your personal storyline. So when you talk about heart disease, this is a personal quest for you. Go ahead and share your story.
Yes, it is. So I was fortunate enough 5 years ago to come across the American Heart Association here in Memphis, and specifically their Go Red program, which is directed towards women in heart disease. As we know, it's the number one killer of women, right? So I went to the Go Red luncheon. I must say that I was not excited about it, as really didn't want anything to do with it because I was not comfortable with sharing my journey of heart disease that had started at age 17 with extreme hypertension. So it had been a very long battle. I went to this Go Red luncheon, and I first off was overwhelmed by a sea of red, which represents your heart, right, Jeremy? And I sat down, and the first survivor that spoke, I realized that I was that lady and that I did have a story to tell, but I had never seen this in a positive light. I mean, never, right? So I started crying, and I cried the whole luncheon. And afterwards, my work connected me with the AHA, and I went and I shared my story of heart disease that started at 17, having a first heart attack at age 43, which was very young, very scary. Numerous other complications that has certainly come along with it. And then once I had started here at my new job, no one knew that 6 weeks after I started, I had another heart attack. Well, Jeremy, I just wasn't comfortable in sharing that because I just started a new job and a career. And to me, that just wasn't the way to start it. So I asked that it be kept quiet. And like I said, then when I went to the Go Red luncheon, I really did realize that I could help somebody in this journey, because this journey will never be over, right? Heart disease doesn't go away. And that was something that I finally had to realize in my 30s. This is not an illness, it's a disease. It's here every day with me.
You mentioned that it was negative before, and that lunch event, that event was the first time you saw it positive. Talk about kind of that side of it, of seeing this, just like you're talking about, as an inspirational opportunity to share your stories and to help others. So talk about kind of that switch from the negative to the inspiration to the positive.
Yeah, so like I said, I listened to several survivor stories that day. And I really realized, what courage it took for them to share that story. And I realized through the tears and all that at the end of it that day, I did get inspiration from those ladies. So I had secretly in my mind had always wanted to try and do a little community project. And I think if you remember the 901 rocks where you would paint 901, well, I had always wanted to paint hearts on them and just leave them around for people to pick up and smile, right? There's so much bad going on. And I just always thought that would be just a nice, kind thing to do. So I said that to the ladies at the Heart Association, and voila, Your Heart Rocks was my first community project. And we hosted paint parties, and we left rocks around the city. And I've spoke at several events for the Heart Association. But what I really realized is each time I share this story is not only empowerment to myself, but I help empower another person to know, hey, you're not alone. And the things that you've done, I promise you, I've been through them too. And, you can get on the other side of it. So as I did that project, Jeremy, my goal of it was to not only love your heart if you have heart disease, but more so than anything, I wanted people to know to love yourself. It's hard to love yourself at times, and it's hard to help yourself in that type of situation if you can't love yourself. So that's really the message that I wanted to get across: to love yourself. You're worth it.
Absolutely. Talk about meeting your co-founder, Hal Perry.
Hal is a wonderful individual. I met him 2 years ago through Go Red. He had a heart attack and had to have open heart surgery. Well, one of the things that Go Red Luncheon does is they have a survivor fashion show, and it's just all of us who had survived some pretty heroic events with your heart. And he had approached me about thinking about something like starting a in-person support group, as we know there's really nothing like this. We rallied again back this past year in September at the luncheon, and we really decided that we really wanted to pursue this. So hence, here we are, we have, and I think we both know this journey because we live it every day. I've probably lived it a little bit longer than he has, but I think there is something about being empowered when you're around other people with the same situation and knowing, hey, you're not alone in what happened to you. We can all support each other. I can share my story. They can share their heart story with us, and we can all get empowerment through this.
Go ahead and talk about HeartQuest Support Group and how it works in terms of the meetings and the structure. So go ahead and dive in.
All right. So we have started out, we're going to meet the first Tuesday of every month. We meet at 5:30, and it is located at Colonial United Methodist Church. That's right on the corner of Park and Estate. I'm sure you pass it all the time, lots of traffic right there, but the real address is 5330 Park. They were generous enough to want to help us with this community project and help everyone in the community. Like I said, Jeremy, it's open to anyone with heart disease, caregivers, anyone who would like to learn about heart disease, so many different things. But we hope to, as we get going, we just had one meeting, so March will be our second one, but we certainly hope to have doctors, health tips, nutrition tips, just anything that can help someone,
When you look at the age, like you said, of 17 and heart disease, all the way up through, at any age, really, talk about that aspect for a support group, especially for, like you're talking about, heart disease affects all ages. So from young adults to older adults, there's a huge need to know, just like you said, you're not alone. And so talk about kind of that aspect.
And you're right, you're not alone. So I was 17, and I will say that I'm going to be 62, so we can go back and do the math, right? But I mean, Jeremy, at that time, I knew that it would come. My family knew, as genetics play a very big part in heart disease. I was 100% on both sides for heart disease. So we saw it very early in me, and the hypertension wasn't just something small, it was massive. Did I understand it? No, not really. Did I want to understand it? Not really. And I hate to say that, but I'm being honest. I'm 17. All I want to do is get ready for my senior year games, what all you're doing at 17. So I didn't take it serious, and I certainly didn't see what the future would be with it. And I think things have changed now as we know that there's definitely more knowledge. It's easier to get. It is talked about more. And from my time in the 70s, Jeremy, it was like you might have talked about it, but you shoved it under the covers, right? It's like, okay, you got it, but let's not really talk about it. So I think that's one of the things with the Heart Association that excited me is how much knowledge they put out in the community free of charge for anyone to get. And I mean, it really makes a difference for what your future will be. And you can be proactive, right?
Absolutely. Give us a couple of ways that you've changed on your end in terms of lifestyle, maybe it's diet and nutrition and some of those things. Like you said, as more information becomes available, as innovation occurs, as new treatments and protocols happen, what have been some of the changes over the years on your end?
Well, I can tell you one of the biggest changes was the Easter of 2005, the day after, when I was driving myself to the emergency room. And yes, you heard me, but Jeremy, I was in such denial that this was happening to me. This heart attack had been going for about 3 days. So you look at me like, dear God, why did you do that? Denial. I didn't want to face what I was really going to have to face because my world was fixing to change, Jeremy, so much, and I was scared. But I went in that emergency room as a smoker, and I came out as a non-smoker. And it was the biggest blessing that could have ever happened. On top of being 43 in the emergency room, I was very young to be having this heart. And so that was truly a blessing to come out of that and never look back. But I mean, I just can't say smoking is so bad for your heart. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, and buts about it. So I certainly encourage anyone to let that habit go.
Yeah.
Also, we know that nutrition, you can make simple changes, right? Salt intake, fat, just anything that is not good, you have the ability to make that change. And I think that a lot of little changes can be a major impact. I've always been someone who has loved exercise, just even as a kid, and it has been in the gym world since the 80s. So I've always been in fitness. And Jeremy, I've always said that obviously God has kept me here, right? But one of the cards that I played so well was fitness. And so I'm kind of a little bit different, as some people have never experienced that world that is so beneficial to heart disease. I came out of it wanting to know, when can I get back to it? When can I get back to it? So like I said, there's many cards that you can play in your hand that can help you.
So back to HeartQuest and the support group, how can the community help your efforts? Obviously, just like we're talking, raising awareness for what you're doing, encouraging more to participate. How can we help?
Yes. So, I think we're at a position where we're trying to get our name out in the community that, hey, this is, we've started this group. Please come, please experience what we have. Our meeting is going to be kind of an open forum at the first segment of it. You're certainly, the floor is open for you to share your experience with heart disease, and maybe even let us share our experience with it also, just to, again, Jeremy, to show that, hey, you're not alone. You're not. And I think that means a lot to people. And I can tell you, coming out of something like that for the first time is overwhelming. And it's like you come out of cardiac rehab or whichever way your cardiologist has directed you. And it's like, it's all over now, all of that. Now you're on your own. Which way do you turn, right? So we hope to maybe be that void and say, hey, come to us. We've got simple things, simple recipes, just things you can do in your everyday life that are not that hard. It's just small changes.
What's been the feedback so far from some of the participants?
It's been good. I mean, we certainly hope to grow this more. And again, where my reach out to you is just really to get that name out in the community. We are going to work along with some of the cardiologists and try to get them to, see what we're all about and where we want to come in this process and help people. And I think it helps that both Hal and I have experienced this and have certainly live it every single day. And again, I'm going to say it's a journey that will never be over. It has no finish line.
Well, you mentioned in terms of reaching out and getting plugged in. So where do we go? So is there a website, an email address? Where would you encourage people to go to learn more, to connect in with HeartQuest's support group?
Yes. So we have a Facebook page, HeartQuest Mid-South, and we also have started an Instagram, which is, again, HeartQuest Mid-South. So we are going to start posting updates, just different tips, and anything beneficial that we can do for the community.
Love it. Well, Lori, thank you for all you do. Thank you for sharing your story, and obviously for you and Hal co-founding HeartQuest Support Group. Greatly appreciate it, and appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you, Jeremy. Again, your support means a lot. And again, we just really want to help the community and really give back. And like you said, I've learned a new thing, power the good. I love it.